All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the show. This is The Global Reality. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Wednesday, June 14th, 2017 edition of the show. Thank you very much for being here with me for another broadcast. With some various different topics I want to talk about with you. You know, I had a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know what the deal is. Some of these news sites, man, they have auto refresh on them, and they auto refresh to the main page. I'll have like certain articles sitting out and prepared or whatever. So a bunch of like 6 or 7 articles I had got wiped out. So because I was planning on doing shows earlier this week, but that's why I didn't, because I had a bunch of stuff saved up and it got wiped out. So anyway, so I've got various different topics and various things I want to discuss with you here on the show. So thank you very much, everybody out there, for being with us. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. God, I don't know. Sorry, I'm sitting here thinking, would I want to talk about that or do I not want to talk about that? Same old shit, you know. But I guess I will bring it up right out of the gates. It seems like, didn't I just address this not very long ago? I guess I'll address it again. It's so funny. People make me laugh. But first thing I guess I should say is that I don't know. Anytime I do an appearance on a show, on a radio show, we always get new listeners in and stuff, which is great. And welcome to everybody out there. If you're a new listener and you've come over from hearing my recent interview or whatnot, welcome. That's the first thing. I don't know what it is, man. People get so bent out of shape about interviews. You're not always gonna. Not everybody that whose show I go on, they're not always gonna agree with me. I'm not always gonna agree with them. I've done shows and on on networks that have people on them that I've been exposing for years. I mean, it's a fact. I've appeared on shows that have been on GCN Radio Network. Yeah, that's happened. I've been there. I've been in the belly of the beast. I've been on shows in the belly of the beast of the Jones world. I was on Coast to Coast AM twice. Anyway, there's it's just frustrating sometimes. There's this thing in people's minds, I guess, of people who, I don't know what it is. They think that it's this whole mindset where I think everybody has to be lockstep and right in with each other on every single fucking detail of every single issue there is. And that's just, that's not reality. It's not going to happen. And that's a really unrealistic expectation for people to put on other individuals out there, So with that being said, the people who, when I go over and do an interview like I did last week with Richie in Boston, people gripe about that. People, there are people who gripe about it on both sides. There are people who gripe about, people in his audience who gripe about having me on because I don't, agree with maybe some of all his issues, and he probably doesn't agree with, doesn't agree with all mine either. But that, that's when you're willing to put those things aside for the greater truth and to try to get information out to people, that's when you have something, and that's what I feel like we did with that show. But I mean, I see his, audience and stuff who are a lot of, a lot of your mainline Christian types, and they come over and start listening to my show. And within a day, literally this happened within a day, I got a comment. Within one day, after doing that interview, I got a comment, and I had just talked about this, I know, within the past few weeks on the show, with the issue of people not wanting me to cuss on my broadcast. And within a day of doing that interview, I kid you not, I had already got somebody leaving a comment on one of my YouTube videos about that. I wonder if I could find it. But I literally remember I just addressed this. This is a lot of people don't know this either. This is my 10th year in broadcasting the show. I started the Global Reality Show back in 2007, September of 2007. And started out, it was like 4 days a week, little small network that didn't last very long. And then, continued on. And in 2009, I was on some other networks, helped start a network in 2008. And then in 2009, towards the end of 2009, I left that network and then created my own platform. And, for a long time, when I did shows on a lot of networks, and anybody that knows me and has listened to my work for any amount of time, it's kind of like, comics, stand-up comics and stuff. And really, stand-up comics are really those are my first heroes. Those are the first people I looked up to. And so there's a thing with comics where you have some comics that will work clean when they go on TV shows or whatever, 100% clean, and they'll have a totally different material. And it's good, and and it's funny. And then you see them like in a club or a comedy special or something. They're unhinged and they can say whatever they want, and they're dropping F-bombs and everything else, and you're like, whoa, this is a whole other level. This is something totally different. And so I sort of, I looked up to that because I'm not gonna lie to you, I was cussing like a sailor when I was a little kid. And probably largely because I had found these, I'm telling you, but I never wanted to be I never wanted to be a radio talk show host or any of that stuff. I just kind of fell into this because of my research and interest in all these topics. But when I was a little kid, I had three different uncles. And I got these tapes from. Because the big three for me are my favorite, comics. The big three, I got a good top five, but the big top three, with the ones I got tapes of at a very early age and stuff, was George Carlin and Rodney Dangerfield and Richard Pryor. Those three. So I at a very young age, but I also, my point is, I also learned at a very young age, because to be hanging out with your friends and, everybody's cussing and talking and stuff, we're talking like 3rd, 4th grade, cussing like sailors. And then I go back and I watch these movies from the 80s that I watched when I was a kid, and they all got characters in them that are little kids that are cussing like sailors. And I'm like, well, okay, it was just of the time, that was just how it was. But I learned this trait at a very young age, and I learned it from watching these comics, because I would see these comics, Rodney Dangerfield or whoever it was. I would see these comics, and they would be on like, Johnny Carson or something. They would be working clean, and then I would hear these tapes of my uncles. I'd sneak from my uncles, and my uncles didn't give me these tapes to their benefit. I snuck these tapes from their collections and made dubbed copies of them when they weren't around, and hauled ass with them. I did that, totally did that. But now I remember the first time I saw a Richard Pryor tape. I don't know what he is. As a kid, he's like 8 or 9. It was called. Excuse me for saying it. I know people get sensitive about this, but I'll say it when it's in an if I'm having to explain something, I need to say this word, I'll say it. But it was called "That Nigger's Crazy." That's what the album was called. Richard Pryor, "That Nigger's Crazy." So I saw this, right? And I'd already seen Richard Pryor in, TV show or movies and stuff, and Superman, all that stuff. I saw this tape and I was like, well, this has just got to be good. There's just no way that this isn't good. Look at what this is called. This is going to be good. And it's, of course it was. But yeah, and then my other uncle had a Rodney Dangerfield tape. I love doing right. I can do a pretty good Dangerfield. I can do. Hey, all right, hey, okay, all right, okay, let's go. The other night, my wife cooked dinner. She said, "Honey, take out the garbage." I said, "You cooked it. You take it out. All right, okay." Now, look at this guy over here. Anyway, I was at a very young age. I kind of saw that, when I saw how these they could turn that on, and it was, and I also noticed too. The other big thing to me too is I noticed that in the situations where these comics were working clean, you could tell they weren't really being themselves. They're being a version of themselves, but they could do it because they're professionals. And then when you would see them in a situation where they could say whatever they want, you could truly see that themselves, that were being honest, what they were saying. George Carlin too, especially. I mean, I've seen so many stuff I saw with George Carlin where he was working clean, the cleanest of the clean, and then you hear him on his tape, and he's talking about, organ donor programs. This shit bother you a little bit? Sounds like Joseph Mengele is going around looking for parts. You think if they come and try to rescue you, you think they're going to take you to the hospital? Hell no, man. They're looking for parts. I mean, and really a lot of the truth. Now, when I got older, I realized, God damn, that's why I got, was searching. I was listening to these guys, man, and they were spitting real truth, Carlin and whatnot. So at a young age, I became really good at that. I became very good at being able to, cuss like a sailor when I was hanging out with my friends and turned off at school or around my parents or grandparents or whoever. I became the master of that at a very young age. So when you hear me go on, when I've been on Coast to Coast EM twice, you'll hear me go watch any of my films. I don't cuss or say, well, I've had, here's in the Secret Right Volume 2, I call Dr. Michael Kaufman, the president of the Council for National Policy, a former president of the Council for National Policy, but he was featured as a speaker in Alex Jones' film Endgame. And I told the story, about him being a dick. He was. So I reported on that in that film, honestly. When I asked him if he could just give me a minute to talk about the Council for National Policy, he said to me, "What makes you think I have time to talk to somebody like you?" I mean, he was a real dick. I mean, he was so that's what I put in the film. And you'll notice if you watch all of my films, every one of them has something, at least one thing. Sometimes you got to look for it. But in every film, there's at least one thing in there, one funny thing in there that'll make you laugh in every film. It's something it's just a trademark of mine. I've always done it from the very beginning. Sometimes you got to look for it. Sometimes it's hard to find. But in every one of them, there's something funny and whatnot in there. So back when I was, for the first 2 years of this broadcast, when I was doing them on, and I was on AM and FM stations for, I had 20, 30 stations for a while I was on, including one that was Alex Jones's main big station in in Central Texas. And he had to end up paying him $30,000 to take my show off and put his back on. It was ridiculous. But, and it always worked clean. Never once in any situation, never even once, never once in any situation where I needed to work absolutely, totally clean and not cuss have I ever slipped up. So this idea that I'm some maniac, some out of control monster who can't speak without cussing like I'm Ricky from the Trailer Park Boys is absolute nonsense. I choose to express myself in a free and honest manner because I refuse to do a radio show where I have to be some fake version of myself and not tell you how I feel and not tell you the truth about these things and censor myself for sponsors. Oh, don't talk about that subject. You'll piss off the sponsors. I got that for 2 years. So when I started my own platform, my own show and my own network in 2009, I said, we're not going to have sponsors, unless we, gets to the point where it's absolutely necessary. We have had a few here and there, but they were, listeners and stuff who want to advertise products and that they have or services. And I got no problem with that. If you got something, you know, you want to do like that, and you'll pay my rate, monthly rate or whatever. That we can do something like that. I have no problem with that. But as a whole, I haven't sought out advertising. We don't sell dick pills or Jew gold, or never done any of that stuff. And my idea when I started this network was for me to be unhindered, not having to ever restrict the topics I talk about or where we go from fear of not being able to exist because the sponsors determine our fate and whether we are able to even continue this work that I've put so much into. And just this idea of being beholden to, especially, in the situations I was in before, I was getting nothing from it. Now, I suppose if I was in a situation where there was, big money involved or something, and it was going to me, I'm not saying I would censor myself in that situation. What I'm saying is there are considerations you can take in, to when you're in those situations. But that's the thing. I was never getting any benefit from it. So there was no benefit for me to censor myself and what I was going to talk about because I was getting no benefit from it. These were sponsors and all the money from the sponsors were going to the network. So I was being beholden to sponsors who weren't even, meanwhile, I'm over there drowning, trying to get people to support my work. So when I started my own platform, that's when I told my audience at that time, and it's not your fault. You can't go back in the Wayback Machine and hear what I said in 2009 when I started this network, but I just want to reiterate it for the people who don't know. Maybe we'll cut this out at some point, and I'll just put it up, and we can refer people to this who have this question again in the future, because it's going to come up again. It's going to continue to come up. But, I wanted this to not be like everything else. And, we're beholden to sponsors. We're beholden to having to try and hawk bullshit snake oil miracle cream pills and salves and everything to a fucking listening audience. Just huckster shit. But the flip side of that is that it had, the idea also was that the listeners would also be the ones that would, donate every month and keep this going. And that's why this has been so difficult, is because you have people come and go, listeners all the time. We always had a consistent listenership, and it does continue to grow every year. And people fall off and they don't listen for a while and they come back, or they don't in some cases. But that's what this has always been. Is always wanted from the very beginning this to be something where people know that what they get here is real, because I'm not censoring myself. I am going to cuss. I'm not going to stop cussing. This lady left a comment that, after I did that last interview, and said, I want to pass this around to people, but I can't pass it around people because you're cussing. Look, if you, just point blank, I'm not going to, you can ask and ask and ask. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I will continue to cuss like a motherfucker indefinitely on this show, because it's my right. It's my platform. And, I had these couple of people, I want to play this for my kids. This is not a kid show. I've never said this was a kid show. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a leader. I'm not a professor. If you're an adult, here's the, I get the kid thing, but you also have to get that I'm not in any way intending this to be for kids, and you should let kids be kids. But not only that, you could also tell kids, all you have to do is tell a kid is be straight with them and say, those are adult words. If you think that I am going to be the corrupting force that gets your kids hearing cuss words, man, you've got to look at yourself and look at the rest of the world before you're looking at me. Honestly. I mean, they're going to get, if they don't hear it from me, they're going to hear it from somebody else. At least when you get it from me, you're getting truth peppered in there with it. But all you have to do is simply tell a kid, don't be condescending and act like kids are stupid. That's the big problem. But tell them straight up. They know. Kids know what words are not supposed to. But again, this is not intended for kids. This is it's intended for adults. So that argument is even null and void. But what this most recent lady was saying is so she could pass it around to people she knows, other adults. Look, if you're an adult and you can't handle cuss words, again, that's your issue, not mine. You have an issue with language. And again, this goes back to the biggest problems I had before I started my own platform, my network, is I felt like a total hypocrite Everybody's talking about free speech this and, First Amendment this and that and the other Constitution. Here I am over here restricting my own speech. So I'm not going to do that. This is not a Christian broadcast aimed towards Christians. I have been exposing the priest class in religions and their involvement in all of this stuff for many, many years. It's not a secret. Go back and look at any of my earlier work. I expose it all here. So I got to be point blank and honest about this stuff, because I don't want people start to make assumptions about people and things, and I got, even before I did this interview, somebody sent me a message that even the day before I went on this show. It was bizarre, and I'm sitting here thinking, dude, I don't have to answer to you. What the fuck does it matter either way? Let me see if I can find this. Did I delete it already? Damn. Oh, here it is. So this was before I did that most recent interview with Richie from Boston. And someone sent me an email that says, "Are you a Bible-believing KJV, King James Version Christian?" It says, "I'm just curious because you're doing an interview with Richie from Boston tomorrow." Well, that's bizarre. No, I'm not one of those. And I'm not a Jew or a Muslim or any other religion. I'm not an atheist either, which is just as much a religion as any other religion you want to name. That's the problem. But again, I'm going to do an interview with somebody. What the fuck does it matter whether I am a Bible-believing Christian or not? What does it matter? I mean, that's not a requisite to go on somebody's show. Richie from Boston doesn't email me prior to a show and go, "Hey, what religion are you? You better say one that I agree with, or you're not going to come on my show." That never happened. That would never happen. So again, these are people and individuals putting this on me and whatnot. Look, again, with the whole cussing thing, I've beat this dead horse into the ground. Everybody's sick of hearing. Everybody's listening to the shows for a long time. Sick of hearing me talk about it, to be honest with you. But my film, The Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1, was shown. So no, this is not a joke. This is absolutely real. It was actually shown in high school classrooms in several schools here in the state of Texas. Do you think for a second that those people would not show my film because I cuss on my radio show? Not for a second, because they know that in my films, again, other than that one little thing in The Secret Right Volume 2, I approach these films very professionally, every element of them, especially since once I got good. I mean, my first 2 or 3 films were, low rent, low budget affairs. They're all low budget, but I've gotten better at, at the craft and as I've gone along. And all of my films from Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 1 on, I think have been, really good, and they progressively continue to get better. Software gets better. I get better. But yeah, I mean, those in the films, I mean, I don't, use cuss words. The point is that everybody who makes a comment about the fact that I cuss makes the comment and frames it like I'm an out of control animal who can't not cuss all the time. Again, I'm going to do my show the way I want to do it. I'm going to talk the way I want to talk, and I'm going to express myself the way I want to express myself, because I am not going to get up here and be fake and, make up shit and provocateur shit and fucking, I mean, there's enough of that. There is a fucking enough of that. There's been enough of that forever. And it's very, very difficult. That's the biggest problem. It's very, very difficult, I have to tell you, to do something in that manner, when it's been the most difficult thing I've ever done, trying to do something that doesn't conform to the way everybody else does. It's impossible. I can tell you this. Well, I don't know. I don't even know if I should say this or not. It's the truth. I don't know where all this. I just don't know how anybody who can call themselves an honest to goodness researcher that has legitimately put in the work and the time they ever to research it. I just don't know how anybody like that, unless they are either lying or, and by lying, I mean, there are a lot of people out there that claim to be their, Christians, or claim to be that or this, that, or the other, so that they can, milk contributions and what. I mean, like if I would have, I figured this out years ago. If I years ago would have said I was a Christian and talked about this, oh man, I'd be raking in the dough. But because I've always put everything objectively out there and talked about how, religions, especially, any man-made religion, okay? And look, all religions are cults. People, I talk about Scientology. Scientology, yeah, it's a cult. But look, Christians and Muslims and everybody else, your shit is a cult too, by definition. It may not be the cult of Xenu, but it's the cult of whoever else. So this thing where people from religions call other religions cults, it's just hypocritical bullshit. The fact of the matter is, when I started researching bloodlines and I started researching how far back, this all happened when I started to really dig into the Council for National Policy stuff and really dig into the beginnings. When I started researching bloodlines and seeing how far back the control system went and what it all traced back to, and it all traced back to the priest class, the priestly classes. Even in the beginning civilizations on Earth in ancient Sumeria, you didn't have congressmen and senators and all this stuff like we have now in governmental structure like we have now throughout the world. It was the priests. And the priests had, just like our CIA and our intelligence operations have information that they keep only to themselves, that they don't make available to the public, and then give it public just enough and the version of the truth. This is what the priests did in those original days. And this is how secret societies, not only how secret societies began, but also how governments began to gain control with the restriction of sacred and secret knowledge that they would use to control society and control the public, and meanwhile feeding them so-called religions in order to control them and keep them right where they want them. This goes back to the original days. It's no different today. It has different names. It has different faces. But it's the same today. The uppermost echelons of power that control the world are the religious priestly classes. That is where the true control is. And that's where the greatest manipulation of everything has taken place. So, again, I don't know how anybody who claims that they are a true truth seeker and a real researcher can call themselves a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, whatever it may be, whatever religion may be, and still say that, because look, I'm here to tell you, they can't coexist. Because once you get down to the real truth, you realize, all of these religions and everything are really all different incarnations of the same thing. That's why you had Quetzalcoatl and Owanis and what was the other one? Owanis, Quetzalcoatl, Thoth. You had all these, Jesus Christ, all these different incarnations of the same individual all throughout the earth. You had Quetzalcoatl, in Mexico, and it could walk on water. Said, "Put no other gods before me." South America, same thing. Egypt, I mean, you had the story of the resurrection and the crucifixion and all that stuff. I mean, all that stuff was in Egypt thousands of years before Christianity. And that's essentially what has been going on. I mean, in Egypt, they told the slaves that the sun was God. Meanwhile, they had their own tripantheon of multi-gods in religious that the elites worshiped that they never told the general public. It didn't even know existed. It's no different today, and this is what secret societies and all these rituals and rites and all this black magic, that's what it's all about. And they have been concocting this master plan, and that's why they have been using both. And again, I've said this many times. People, I would never, just because I'm not a member of one of these particular Abrahamic religions or any other religion, does by no means make me an atheist or an unbeliever in a higher power or spiritual. I mean, I'm one of the most spiritual and spiritually connected individuals, and spent many years working on that spiritual side that you'll ever meet. And I definitely believe in, higher powers and all of those things. I just don't choose to define them by man-made Abrahamic religions that all trace back to these same sources after the Great Flood that were set up and designed from the very beginning and continue to this day as a control mechanism to keep this society they believe was originally created by the gods themselves perpetuating itself indefinitely. So, I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not a flat earther, and I'm going to continue to cuss. So, again, laying it out there point blank. If you choose not to listen to my show anymore because of those things, c'est la vie. But I'm laying it out there, and I can tell you this. I do want to thank all those who have continued to listen. I mean, I've got people who've been listening for almost the whole 10 years. It's insane. But I'm not a leader, and I'm not a teacher. So quit trying to, it's not me doing these things. It's other people out there. Trying to make me be something that I'm not. And I'm never going to be something that I'm not. That's just all there is to it. Now, on the other hand, if you would like to pay all my bills and you would like to pay me to do a show 100% clean, hey, show me the money. If you want to put, $2,000 a month, every month on the first of the month in my PayPal account in exchange for me doing a clean show, we could maybe talk about something. But that's the thing. This stuff never comes from people who actually contribute and support my work. It comes from people who've never listened to me before, who've listened once and immediately think in their head that just because they listened to one show and heard me cuss, that immediately, because they complained, I will immediately for them stop cussing. I mean, the assumption, the goddamn fucking audacity of that assumption is what fucking kills me more than anything else. I've been doing the show for 10 years. I'm going to stop cussing because you listen to one show and you're mad because you can't pass it around to the rest of the churchies. Give me a fucking break. If I'm too real for you, that's on you, not me. Okay? Let's just lay it out there. That's on you, not on me. To the rest of you, thank you. Thank you very much. It's just hilarious to me. I mean, it's also hilarious to think people think that every single person has to be lockstep and agree with every single issue. I saw this a lot when I first got into the so-called truth movement stuff, 12, 13 years ago. I mean, I'd been researching for years, but I just started noticing all the people that I would meet when I started meeting people or being in chat rooms. Everybody seemed to have that same sort of attitude where, we all have to believe 100%, each thing. And anybody, I've made the analogy many times, the goth kids on fucking South Park, and that's exactly how they are. You can join our nonconformist club as long as you wear the same clothes as we do and listen to the same kind of music. And that's how people in the truth movement are. You can be a part of our truth movement as long as you believe every theory exactly the way we believe it and have no thought of your own of a contrary theory or something. I mean, that's the way it is. Or, if you don't agree with, then you're ostracized and you're out or you're a plant or whatever. And meanwhile, they continue to buy the bullshit from people like Alex Jones and others. That's another thing. Don't ever fucking tell me, oh, I think you're being a little hard on Alex Jones. You know what? You were a little hard on Alex Jones last night when you were slopping his knob. Fuck you. If you can't handle me exposing these people, go fucking listen to something else. I'm sick of it. It just the audacity of these people who've never listened to my work, never supported my work. They come in, they listen to one show, and they're going to tell me what and what not to talk about. Go fuck yourself. Okay? Is that clear enough for you? You don't like it? Start your own fucking show. Man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, it's hilarious. Another thing, I don't know why this happened. I've been on over there on Richie and Boston shows like 3 times, and every single time, and even this time, I even said it. I've said something about it twice on air, and still people do it. I even said something about it on his show. I said, look, if you can't find the download shop on my website, theglobalreality.com, it's real easy. You can find all my movies, and we got great audiobooks, all kinds of stuff in there. If you haven't seen my films or heard a lot of my audiobooks, you should go in there and make some purchases right now. Spellcaster Volume 1 is in there. Volume 1.5 is in there. Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1, Volume 2, The Secret Right films, everything. Lots of audiobooks. And mini films as well that I put out are in there. But I don't know what it is, man. Every time I went on his show, I had somebody, like at least 6 or 7 people who, instead of doing what I said, and he even gave instructions of how to go to the download shop, they either A, still can't find it, email, I can't find where to download your movie. And then either have that, or you have people that are going to the pre-order link for the DVDs, which it had one for the pre-order the download prior to the movie coming out. Now, when you know where the movie is out and has been out for a while, common sense dictates that that clicking on a button that says pre-order a download is not the wise thing to do, and probably not where you should be to make this purchase. But still, we have people doing that, and then it's my fault they're stupid. Well, I tried downloading this to my phone. Well, you can't download it to a phone. You have to download it to a PC or laptop first, then you can transfer it to a phone. And you would know that if you had bought your download in the right place and listened to my instructions that I've given explicitly, or just had common sense enough to click on something in the middle of a page that says download all Josh Reeves' films here. And then they email me bitching and complaining and moaning, I didn't get my download link and I can't download this on my phone. So yeah, again, it's my fault. You're stupid. I get that. That's one of the things I experience the most with this kind of stuff. Somebody does something completely retarded and dumb because they didn't listen. That's enough, man. People's listening skills are fucking shit these days. People need to learn to fucking listen and learn to read. I remember last time I went on a rant or something about all the show about something. Went on a total rant about it. Not kidding you. The very next day on the next show, very next day, somebody said or did something that I had just addressed the day before and complained and moaned about, somebody did it the very next day. I mean, it's hilarious. Same, I had a couple weeks ago, I had a video that had, it was with the audio from the show. I don't know what happened that day. We had like some interference, some strange interference that totally, completely just annihilated the recording of the show. And I tried to fix it and tried to find, once I reset the computer, it didn't do that the next time I recorded. But what I'm saying is, I had done this whole show. I didn't hear any interference while I was doing the show, which is why it was odd. But the recording went right as soon as I stopped the recording and went to play it back. When I was going to check the levels and stuff before I encoded it, it had all this. It sounded like it was being scrambled. It literally did. Very, very strange. It sounded like it had a scrambler on it. And the strange thing about it is that when you pull it up, when you pull the waveform up for the recorded audio, you see spikes and whatnot. Like if I talk very loud or yell, you'll see spikes, from volume spikes. And fuzz and distortion and that kind of thing. You can see that too in the wave. The wave was totally clean, just like it is now on the show I'm recording. It looked exactly that way. I don't like to jump on the everything is, everybody's out to get me paranoia stuff. But the fact of the matter is, that's why I used to do this show for a long time. I did it on a live stream, and I would do it live. And every single time, from the very beginning, they just started taking down my broadcast. Because my original idea was to do a show like at midnight. I wanted to do a show and go up against Coast to Coast AM. I still would love to do that. I'm thinking one of these days, maybe somebody with a big network, with a lot of access to a lot of stations will fucking finally get smart and do something like that. Somebody is one of these big networks, somebody needs to compete with Coast to Coast AM. It's a shit show over there. Somebody needs to put my ass on a big fucking, multi-station network type thing like that and let me do the Josh Reeves style, Coast to Coast AM competition thing. Because I guarantee you I'd wipe the floor with them. There's just no question to it. But I was doing my thing. And back then we had what we called the late night people. We called the Moonbat. So we'd have the Moonbat shows and stuff like that for the late night people who would hang out in the chat room and stuff and talk. And it just got to the point, man, where it was just they were taking down my show every night. And I was getting emails from the server company. And the server company, I'm not kidding you, multiple times the server company would email me and say, hey, man, not that we care, but what are you talking about over there on that show? I'm like, well, why? What's up? And he was like, well, man, he's like, somebody tried to go after your server box. They tried to do a denial of service on your server box. And the network security promptly shut it down. I'm like, okay, well, that's good. Well, at least I'm getting what I paid for, right? And a couple of minutes later, when they couldn't take down your server, they took down our entire network server. Like every server, big, massive server farm. It took the whole thing down, dude, like 5 or 6 times. They were doing it all the time. They stopped just going after my box and we're going after the actual server company. And I switched server companies 2 or 3 times, and this happened 2 or 3 times. I was getting multiple emails from server companies saying that, we don't know what's going on here. We've never seen anything like this. Multiple times they use those exact words. We've never seen anything like this. We've been a server company for 12 years. We've never seen anything like this. These massive DOS attacks that were looking like they were coming from multiple sources, multiple boxes. I'm sure this stuff was coming from Jones and whoever, but the CIA. But anyway, so after a while, I started like mixing it up. I was like, okay, I'll just do the show at different times. I would do the show at like 4 o'clock in the fucking morning, sometimes or 5 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock at night. I would just do it at different times. And I started noticing, because what I would do is I would play music before on the stream before I went on. And we would have music on, for a few hours before the show. And that motherfucker would play and stream 100% constant. But as soon as the show would start, boom, they'd start scrambling the signal. And so eventually I just got to the point where I'm like, well, okay, I'll just do it at different times. They won't know when I'm going to do it. If I do it at fucking crazy ass time in the morning, it'll throw them off. And that worked for a while, and then they figured that out. And so after a while, I just eventually started just having to do them pre-recorded. And that's been working for a while. So that was my, I was thinking about are they trying to fuck with me now by scrambling even the, offline recordings I'm doing? I mean, it's just bizarre. It wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if it was going on. But anyway, I did that show and I posted on YouTube, and I the very first thing, man, in the comments, I didn't even put like a link to our monthly contribution banner for our operating costs. I didn't even put that first on the video, or my website name or anything first on the video. The first thing on there, on that video, big bold letters right at the top, very first thing you read when you look at the video says, there was some strange interference with the recording. It was scrambled. The recording was basically ruined, but I went in and cleaned it up and did the best I could. It was either that or no show. It was like, okay, I either salvage this, but I explained it, I still had like 7 or 8 people. Why is it so fuzzy and scrambled? It sounds scrambled. And at least we had some other listeners who called them out before I did. I was just like, learn to read, people. But yeah, that's a big issue. People not listening and people not reading. I got enough problems trying to get people to wake up to this stuff and realize the other level of deception that's going on here within, so-called truth tellers and whatnot. That's a hard enough job. And people who, the other thing too is people's computer systems and whatnot. I had one guy, it was, oh my God. I mean, literally for like 2 days, I was trying to help this dude do tech support on his computer, which had nothing absolutely to do with my download whatsoever. He just had a crappy computer. That's the other thing. You can't blame me, folks, if you have a crappy computer and a shit connection. If you got you've got a P2 Pentium 2 from 99 on a 56K dial-up modem in fucking Shitsville, Australia, I'm fucking sorry. Maybe maybe it's just you're asking your shit out of luck. I don't know. It's just hilarious sometimes. Like, man, I'm glad I worked in tech support many years ago because, and that's the same thing I experienced doing tech support. So many times it wouldn't be a problem with the software. That's what tech support is be about, right? Like problem with the software itself. And it's so funny. We make these explicit instructions for people to download stuff, and it's not hard. But still, you got people who can't figure it out. And they don't read the instructions. So then the fact that they didn't read the instruction or follow it, and they just assume they know how to do everything, that's also your fault. But so many times when I was doing tech support, I experienced people like that where, 99% of the time when somebody would call in, same thing I get now when people have problems with downloads. 99.9% of the time, it's nothing wrong with the movie itself or the download itself. It's just either they can't figure out how to do it because they're not that smart, or their computer's a piece of shit, or, but it's never a problem with the movie or the actual download. It's their lack of computer skills. And I saw that a lot, man. I had this call once. I had a guy, he called in and he was trying to figure out how to get his software to work. And, they when you're doing tech support, so they have like, you have so long, or you're like on a timer, and depending on what the issue is, you get time, you get it done in a certain amount of time or whatever. And if you're on a call for a really long time, it would send like a notification to a supervisor, on their desktop, that would say, Josh has been on this call for 40 minutes. And so they start fucking, sending you chat box. Hey, what's up? Close this guy down. What's happening? Get him. And I'm like, man, I've gone through everything with this guy. They would start trying to escalate it to senior people and stuff. And so after about 40 minutes with this guy, I'm looking back and I got like senior guys, big analysts and company guys all behind me, because everybody in the whole building's like, Josh has been on this fucking call for 40 minutes with this guy. What the fuck? He's gone through everything with him. I went through everything with this guy. Everything you could imagine. I went through to troubleshoot why this guy couldn't, or it won't load, and we don't see an icon. Didn't see the icon to load this, to install the software. Can't find where to install it, blah, 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 blah. And right about the time the senior guys are about to take over, right about the time it just clicked in my head, and they were standing behind me. And I said, sir, this is going to sound silly, but it's the only thing we haven't tried, so let's try it. Let's just see, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. Don't take offense to it, but do me a favor. Hit the where you put the disc in the tray, the CD-ROM. Do me a favor. Hit the just hit the button there, the eject button that opens the tray. Just humor me here. Okay, I'll do it. Dude hits the button. No fucking disc in the goddamn player. The guy didn't put the motherfucking disc in the goddamn fucking machine. The guy went to do his fucking taxes or whatever the fuck he was doing, to load up his software. Couldn't find where it wasn't working. It didn't auto load. Didn't do anything it's supposed to do. And he's pissed because he paid his $19.95 for his goddamn software, and he needs to do his fucking 401k, and he's fucking pissed. 40 goddamn minutes later, the guys are breathing down my neck thinking it's my bad that I don't know how to do my job. I don't know how to fucking, what the fuck? Why is Josh on this call for fucking 40 minutes? I'm telling you, I've done everything. Motherfucker didn't have his goddamn CD-ROM in the fucking computer. Can you fucking believe that shit? I literally wanted to track that motherfucker down and just beat him with his old cane. My God. And I get the same shit now. It's like flashbacks. I get that same kind of shit. I can't find where to download it. Did you hit the button that says download? Oh. Oh, man. I mean, we truly are fucked. I hate to say that too often, but, that's one thing that I've come to grips with as I've been doing this is that I don't know. I do really appreciate the smart, intelligent people out there who get this stuff and feel my pain on this stuff and get it and understand it. And the people that do contribute and support my work, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate each and every one of you if you fall into that category. And I appreciate you and love you so much because I see the flip side of that so much. So again, thank you to those dedicated ones of you out there who do support my work and believe in what we're trying to accomplish here, which is to keep people from falling down this, other level that's there waiting for you, this other trap that's set. I watched, I don't know how many parts this is. There's 2, I guess, that are out now. Not sure when the other one's air, but I did watch the first 2 parts of the Oliver Stone, Vladimir Putin interview series last night. I definitely highly suggest you watch this, especially if you're somebody like me who already has, an idea of what's going on here with all this stuff. Very, very interesting. Of course, I've put Stone out there. We talk about Oliver Stone and JFK and Scientology and Jim Mars and all that stuff in the Spellcasters Volume 1. Again, download shop. Hit it if you hadn't seen that movie yet. You're missing out. I'll put it to you like this for those of you who haven't seen Spellcasters Volume 1. This is not me saying, this is not just me saying this. I've had this said to me by 30 or 40 people who've seen the movie. It's actually been the comment I've gotten the most on the film is that they feel like they've come up a level, like after they watch that film, like you don't realize how much there is, and you don't. It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. Just like it wasn't my fault that I didn't know before. I heard about the Council for National Policy. I didn't know about any of this stuff or any how far the control levels go and how all this stuff traces back and really does prove how left, right, doesn't matter what it is or what religion it is or, what political affiliation. These people are all controlled and the threads all trace back to the same individuals. But that's been the biggest thing people have said, is they feel like God, I can't, now that I've seen this, I can't imagine walking around having not seen it. Somebody said that, I can't imagine, because it does. I mean, it does cause a paradigm shift. You have to, look at this stuff in a completely different way. But Oliver Stone, he's another CIA controlled asset. I mean, and that's very clear in this interview. There's lots of stuff in this interview, in this interview. And listen, Putin's putting out a lot of truth in this. There's a lot of truth in this. He talks a lot about, the Mujahideen and how the CIA and Brzezinski set up Al-Qaeda, and they show the clips, and they show some very rare Brzezinski clips in there. Interesting, since he just died, But there's been, there's been a lot of stuff in there. This is why so many people, and why the truth movement and Scientology and all this stuff is lockstep in with the Russians. I mean, for years, Russia Today has been the, truth movement sanctioned news outlet. They've had everybody on there. And, it's 100% controlled by the former KGB. And this is why so many people, I mean, I don't know if there's any truth to that. I heard many years ago, I don't remember where I heard this, and if you're trying to do research on it, there's nil out there. I heard a conspiracy theory many years ago that it was actually Russia who was behind 9/11. Has anybody else ever heard that theory? Because I heard it once, and I never heard anything about it again. But I remember hearing this theory that it was actually Russia who was behind 9/11, and they were doing it in order to be able to get the United States to invade Afghanistan. And it's interesting because Russia has talked about, 9/11 being an inside job, and they've promoted 9/11. They've had screenings of 9/11 truth films in Russia, state sanctioned. And there's a lot of stuff you hear. I mean, the stuff that Putin was talking in there about, them setting up Al-Qaeda, I mean, all the stuff in there, historically, he's correct on all the stuff. I mean, I was watching this whole interview, and I couldn't disagree or say he was wrong about most of the stuff that he's talking about. But then you see them, they're walking through the old Tsar Palace, and he says, oh, I don't have bad days because I'm not a woman. And I posted the picture on our Facebook pages, and you can see right behind them, they're there. There's the illuminated eye in the background, and of course, that symbol on everything Russian, the double-headed eagle. You see him getting sworn as president. He's putting his hand on the Bible with the double-headed eagle. I mean, that all goes back. And then, of course, after the new rise of Russia after the fall of Soviet Union, Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox Jewry is now the main religion there. I show that with the spellcasters and how these same Eastern European Jews set up Hollywood. And then, you've got this other guy that started the CCHR, Citizens Committee on Human Rights, that George Norrie and Alex Jones and Michael Moore and the Health Ranger, Mike Adams guy. All these people are all members of this group, Ron Paul. And it was started by, you got it, the Eastern European Jew, Scientologist guy. I mean, that's why the whole Red Scare and all that Red Scare propaganda stuff, man, that was all a hoax created by people who were actually working lockstep in with communism, not people who were opposing it. I mean, this has been going on for a long, long time. L. Ron Hubbard, man, he was leaking information via the CIA and stuff. It's the same way with, the confessional booths and whatnot. It's intelligence gathering. And we've had people who have been working within the CIA framework. Oswald was another one. Oswald was going to Russia and giving Russia secrets on the U-2 spy plane. Remember when the U-2 spy plane got shot down? That is accredited to information that Oswald gave to the Russians. And yet, when he decided, he after he renounced his U.S. citizenship and became a Russian citizen, he was allowed to come back in with his Russian bride into the United States and move to Dallas with absolutely zero problem from customs, immigration, or anything else. 100% was let through. Boom. That's because he had a security clearance. Did he get anything for giving those secrets to the Russians? No. This stuff's been going on. They have been working in lockstep with the Russians prior to the Cold War, during the Cold War, and after the Cold War, and after the fall of the Soviet Empire. All of this stuff, whether it be wars or these phony terror attacks, you notice in these phony terror, look, it's always about the war on people. It's always about eliminating the population. Any of this stuff, this ISIS stuff or Al Qaeda, look who they're killing. Are they killing military people? No, they're killing regular people. Because the different factions of these different countries are at war with us. They're not countries at war with each other. This is a war on humanity and the people themselves. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff in this Putin thing, man. If you watch it, you're going to see so many things. Like, everybody knows that Putin's been married more than once, but officially they won't talk about it. And he's had more than, he has other kids. There's a little part in there where Stone says something about, no, your first wife. He slips up and says it, and Putin you can tell they had an edit in there, they cut it. Putin kind of says, oh no, I've only been married once. Oh yeah, okay, you've been married once. And then there's another thing where they're talking about Boris Yeltsin. They're kind of showing Boris Yeltsin. This is, Boris Yeltsin was in just right prior to. It's interesting because it's something I never really understood until I watched this interview thing with Putin and saw, the history of how it happened. Dude, it's fucking unbelievable. They put Boris Yeltsin under fucking mind control and got him to basically give Putin the job as president or prime minister, whatever he was initially. You can only be president for so long, and then he goes into something else, but he's still basically in power. But they kind of make fun of Boris Yeltsin. Oh, he was a drunk, and they show him drinking beer. There's a few times he's totally, the guy is bonkers out of his mind control. And when he goes and when he's like renowned, there's like a clip they show of him where he's like, where he's talking about he's stepping down. They try to make it seem like he's drunk, but if you've seen drunk people on film and on camera, you could tell this guy's clearly not drunk or on substances. This guy's under mind control. You want to see what a drunk person looks like? Watch Cannonball Run, the first one. Though, for God's sakes, don't watch that second one. Jesus Christ. Unless you want to see the worst movie you ever seen in your life. Watch the Cannonball Run, the first one. Dean Martin in the Cannonball Run, the first one. God damn. Holy fuck. Even on, I don't give a fuck, on your drunkest fucking day, you were never as drunk as Dean Martin in Cannonball Run, the first one. That is the most fucked up individual I've ever seen on film, is Dean Martin in that first one. Oh my God, dude. The dude is blackout. You can tell he's beyond blackout drive drunk. And he's like reciting lines and acting. And he's beyond Blotto. He's 7 sheets beyond Blotto in that movie. So in this interview, they try to make they show Boris Yeltsin like slamming beers and stuff like that. But when you see him, he's clearly under mind control. And he's like, I am stepping down like a robot. And then what's he do? He fucking brings in Putin. So watch it. I was like, Jesus Christ, I never fucking know. I never knew that. I never noticed it. They absolutely had Yeltsin under total fucking mind control and got Putin's a slick motherfucker, man. I mean, like I said, I didn't really hear anything. I had to go back and watch it, but I didn't hear anything I disagree with what the guy said. Honestly. And that's why he's pulling so many people over to his side. People are believing that But understand, this guy has no interest in the people of the United States. He would kill every single person in the United States right now, and you can get that from his tone when you listen to him talk in these interviews too, if it meant that, you know, he had to do it to save the Russian people. Absolutely. So don't get caught up in thinking this guy's our ally and he's our buddy and he's a truther and he's on the truther side and we should be with him and Trump and Alex Jones. I mean, these motherfuckers want to kill us. And they're only concerned about themselves, and their only concern is doing away with anybody who might be a threat to Russia. Now, he makes it very clear if nobody wants to be a threat to Russia, he's cool to work with everybody. But his big problem is NATO. And this is really, you really start to understand a lot more of what's been going on when you watch this, especially with the election and stuff. I mean, it's very clear now with the whole election fraud stuff. If that indeed did happen, it does, in fact, appear that it did. I mean, the motive was definitely there. I mean, for no other reason than to keep Hillary Clinton out, which, you know, isn't a bad thing. Putting Trump in the alternative was not a good thing either. But the main thing, as far as from the standpoint of Putin, is NATO. And, you know, getting out of NATO, getting America getting out of NATO, keeping those so-called missile defense systems that are really, he's right, that's what they are. The whole defense shield thing, no, dude, that's just them wanting to put a fucking complete border of missiles, offensive missiles around, you know, to point at Russia. He's right about that. I mean, you got to give it to him there. But these guys are bloodline, Ashkenazi, Freemasonic gangsters. That's what fucking Putin is. But when you hear him talk, I'll tell you this. He seems a hell of a lot more of a competent leader than any of these puppet dictators like Bush or fucking Clinton or Obama or Trump that we've had. I mean, he seems like more of a legitimate leader. And I think that's what, I think that's one of the things that's scary about the guy. I mean, he's very charismatic. He talks a really good game. But again, don't get the guy wrong. And I think that's one of the main reasons, though. I mean, the main reason they're really portraying this guy as a bad guy is he is a threat to the establishment. There's no question about it. But people are kidding themselves and confusing themselves and thinking that, just like they do with Trump, that he isn't part of the establishment too. They may be a different aspect or element of the establishment, and that element or aspect that they're a part of may be polar opposite of the mainstream one, ideologically, but they're still a part of that nonetheless. Trump is still a part. I mean, he can talk his game all he wants about how he's not part of bullshit. Again, these are the players that are trying to take this power, the power of the establishment, for themselves. Not because they have altruistic goals in mind to do right by the people, but just to gain more power for the sake of power. So it's a big thing that's happening right now. You're going to see more of it. There was major power shifts going on within the upper echelons of power throughout the world. The biggest powers of the power to be, these guys are dying off. The new guard is trying to come in and assume power, and they use the media and elections and rest of this to manipulate people's opinion about it, to make them think that it's something other than, big industrial business and big, mafioso gangster type shit. These are guys that just want power. They want to run the big machine for themselves. Anyway, it's a fascinating thing and definitely something that you want to check out. Hopefully, I don't know when they're going to post the rest of it or when the rest of it's going to air. I just happened to see the first 2 episodes last night. And yeah, again, definitely worth checking out. Let me see what else I got here. And more, I mean, I'm just getting proven right on every front, aren't I, lately? And I'd already told you in Spellcasters about the Russian connection and stuff, even before the fucking election. That was out last year before the election even happened. So, and I had talked about the Russian connections in there, in that film, and also the Oliver Stone stuff, as I mentioned. And of course, now going on this week, happening on Father's Day this Sunday, the big thing going on, everybody's talking about now, is this Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones interview. It's just so hilarious because, Jones agreed to do this interview. He's like, oh, they hatchet jobbed me and this. Well, that's what they do. I knew when I did my interview with that British TV, I knew they were going to hatchet job me, and of course they fucking did. You don't go into one of these situations. Jones acting like he's trying to play the victim again, trying to act like he didn't know ahead of time they were going to try to make him look like an idiot. Come on, Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones, both these motherfuckers are CIA to the hilt. Council for National Policy Control to the hilt. This is another part of the psychological operation, another part of this, and they are ramping up Jones and escalating him into a higher position of power within this psychological operation, just as I predicted and told you they would. And after the death of Adnan Khashoggi, and now Brzezinski recently died, you're going to start to see these power shifts and these things change within the operations for these different things that have been ongoing for quite some time. I predicted this. It's happening, folks. And I'm one of the few people that's been out here for a decade now, finding this stuff, making films. We've got until Friday. We've got to raise $700 by Friday, folks, to cover our the rest of what we need for the Spellcasters Volume 2, the rest of the budget. If we don't get that by Friday, the film's not going to be coming out. We've expended our budget. We've gone past this. We've asked people to donate. People still haven't contributed. And we've got to raise $100 by tomorrow, just for our operating costs for this week. So our goal this week, we need to raise at least $100 towards operating costs, and we need to raise the total $700 amount for our Spellcasters 2 budget by Friday. Act now. Contribute what you can, folks. There is nobody else out here that's doing this on the level that I am and exposing these people that are claiming to be telling you the truth and claiming to be on your side. There are very few people and there are very few outlets where you're going to get this type of information. And again, that's why I implore everybody out there to continue to support our work here and help us. I mean, I don't want to just make it. I'm sick and tired of just barely making it scream by every month. I want to be able to grow and do bigger things here. But that is only held back by the lack of funding. So anybody out there that can come forward and put some funds into this to give us a little war chest to work with so we can get these bastards right where we fucking want them. And if I had more to work with, boy, you wouldn't even believe what I could do. That's the only thing that holds back and limits my reach. So if you really, as I say all the time, when you contribute to this, you're a part of it. That's why I always say, because people always ask me this question, and again, just like people ask me about the cussing thing, because they're new listeners. How come you always say support our work? You say our work, but then you say, well, I'm a one-man operation. That sounds like a contradiction. Well, that's because I am a one-man operation. I'm a one-man show. I do every element of these films, every aspect, from the music to the composing of the music to the writing of the script to the research and everything. And so when I say support our work and we need you to do this, I'm talking about me and the other people out there who actually have contributed and do contribute to keep my work going and to keep my films coming out. And as soon as you contribute and do that, you become a part of it. And guess what? You didn't have to join a group. You didn't have to put your name on a piece of paper. You didn't have to get your name on a list. You didn't have to join a cult or a religion or anything else. But you just instantaneously, by making a contribution, and again, the larger the better because the more we can do, but even a $20 donation or something, $10, $5, you become a part of that. You're a part of us being able to do, because we're not getting funding from sponsors and advertisers and selling dick pills and Juke Hold or whatever else and magical creams, I'm just trying to, for once, create something that can't be corrupted by these people. And I hope that you'll see that and understand that and support our work. We'll see you back here next time for the show, folks. I love you all. Take care.